Armchair commanders, we call the shots. From our living room thrones where the action's hot. We're the generals of fiction, the masters of war. In silver screen battles with buttered popcorn. Armchair commanders, armchair commanders.
Alrighty, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John.
And I'm Jack.
And this week, we're discussing the...
Wolverines!
Yes, the Wolverines, the 1980s classic Red Dawn, starring Patrick Swayze.
I'm still crazy for Swayze.
Are you?
Yeah.
So how many times did you think about Grey Dawn while watching this?
I actually watched that episode before watching this movie.
Maybe we should do Grey Dawn as a...
bonus reel. Get in the car, Billy! Well, look at it this way. We're not outside of the car. We're inside of the car, so we're safer. He's right. My God, he's right.
My God. I don't know. It'd been a very long time since I'd seen this film. I think the last time I watched it, I was like still a kid. My dad made me watch it.
Just so you were prepared. Just so you were prepared.
Yeah.
Remember, in the case of invasion, make sure to pack your plot armor.
Right. Make sure we stop by the gas station that has every possible supply known to man.
God bless Reagan-era America.
Gas station in fucking bumfuck nowhere, Colorado. You got beans, cereal, cases of Coke, and guns.
My God, they really stocked up on the Coca-Cola, too.
I wonder who sponsored that film.
It's definitely Spalding, because that one guy that made sure to take the football.
That or North Face, because all the kids had North Face like coats and backpacks and shit.
Mm-hmm.
A product placement.
Run, son. Run, kids.
I appreciated that this movie kind of really got to the point, or to the chase, as far as the story went. Because it's literally...
Yeah, we wasted no time.
Yeah, we get like 30 seconds of like cue cards where it's giving us alternate history America. And then it goes to, our characters going to school, and then it's immediately Russian paratroopers.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, this film is just getting to business.
We don't even really get to know the characters. It's just history teacher gets killed and moving right along. I would have liked to get to know the kids more.
I think that's what they do in like the readaptation of Red Dawn, the like 2012 one. It's like you get to know the kids more. But the first thing I thought when I saw the teacher eat it was, that like rumor in college that always sticks around where it's like, oh, if your roommate dies, then you get a semester free of college. I was like, all those kids definitely immediately got an A on that test.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the rules.
Them's the shakes. Some kid is just getting the chance of a lifetime.
You ever wonder where the like rumor of like, oh, if my roommate dies, I get free college for a semester came from? Because that's just a legitimately stupid fucking concept.
Wonder how many people it killed.
At least 3. I don't know. Did your roommate ever try to kill you?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't know. I prevented Mitch from dying like 3 times in college. I should have just let it happen.
Yeah, we all could have gotten the ace in the hole by pretending to be his roommate.
He was actually my roommate one year.
Yeah, he was my roommate too, so, time to fall upon the sword, Mitch.
I'm sure he'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
Love you, Mitch.
Man,
If you'd like to know more about our buddy Mitch, go check out our District 9 episode.
Mm-hmm. Starring John Hinckley Jr. I love you.
So, speaking of stupid, the concept of this movie is that, this is alternate history universe where basically Europe bows out of World War III, which I didn't know you could just opt out of playing World War.
NATO collapses.
Yeah. The only thing that seemed partially plausible to me was the idea that like the Cuban military took over parts of South and Central America and then like invaded, like did a land invasion from like the Mexican border. Like for me, I was like, okay, I can wrap my head around that concept. But the idea that the Russian military has the fucking infrastructure to deploy a good chunk of its military to, you know, the lower 48 is genuinely just fucking stupid to me.
Yeah, and they really go into detail. Like some of the scenes with Russians, they're like, it's the invasion ain't going so well for us either because the this front is stagnating and we're just barely holding on to Colorado and blah blah blah.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that like they're doing this like full on occupation of Calumet, Colorado, which today it's a ghost town. But like even in the premise of this film, it's just a bumfuck nowhere town. And if you look on the map, like yes, it is located along I-25, and like I can see that like securing multiple strong points along a major interstate would be important. But like there's a lot of resources being wasted on this kind of non-strategic town.
Man, Denver's on lockdown.
Right. So Denver's 2 hours north of this town. Colorado Springs is an hour north. And like, are you really going to sit there and tell me that they didn't nuke fucking Colorado Springs off the face of the fucking earth during this thing?
No, guess not.
Like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but that's where fucking NORAD is.
So, if you'll allow me to take a moment to say I told you so. I doubt
Please
you
do.
remember this, but I still remember this. I told you and Mitch that North and South Dakota were one of the hot spots for targets for nuclear strikes in the Cold War, and neither of you believed me. And it's fucking true because we have the missile site.
Yeah, in this movie it's had. So let me get this straight. They tactical nuke the silos in the Dakotas, but they don't take out the like main, central brain to the entire United States military.
No, because I guess the infantry can do that just fine.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Well, if they nuked Calumet, we wouldn't have a movie now, would we?
I suppose not.
It'd be even shorter.
Boy, howdy, there's some sort of weird streak in the sky. Roll credits.
Yeah. Then we had that weird romantic subplot with that 40-year-old Air Force dude and that teenager.
Yeah, that was a. I don't know how to give this movie props about that, other than the fact that it wasn't the 40-year-old dude who initiated it. Like I
Yeah.
know the situation is still shitty and creepy, but like at least it wasn't like a predatory nature to begin with.
And that scene where he dies, where they're like hiding they're behind the embankment, just under the gun that's firing. No, they would be fucking deaf or dead. Probably both.
But
Tanks are fucking loud.
I really like the Colonel as a character.
Yeah, one of them that knew, like a character that knew what was going on. And I really like that scene that's like, well, America's on our own. Well, who do we have on our side? About 400 screaming Chinamen. Line that aged well. He's like, I thought there was a billion Chinamen. Not anymore. And he like splashes his whiskey in the fire to make a point. Which 600 million dead. The World War II had like 68, 75 million dead total.
I'm curious what you thought about the fact that this movie takes the position that World War III is only semi-nuclear. Like there was targeted nuclear strikes, but like they didn't go all out, and it's not like a nuclear winter, if you will.
Yeah. We don't really hear about the nukes that landed in Russia, if any. Because we don't put all our eggs in one basket. There had to have been some on submarines too.
But yeah, there definitely would have been retaliatory strikes.
How effective those were, that's unknown.
I think this is the only time I've seen a film that involves like the concept of World War III and nuclear arms, and it's not just like utter obliteration.
I mean, it's an interesting concept because on one hand, yeah, they could just carpet nuke the entire continent and turn it into the world's biggest parking lot. But at the same time, they actually want to occupy it and they don't want to poison the wheat.
The wheat. Yes, the most important agricultural mainstay of the United States.
And now there's going to be a famine too because they just invaded and disrupted our food supplies.
Yeah, yeah, there is that. But where's all the toilet paper?
I'm not using leaves.
Remember when it was interesting? That was like, I thought that was one interesting aspect of like the pandemic was seeing how people would do like apocalypse panicking purchases.
Between you and me, I kind of saw it coming because I remember when I went to Hawaii, our tour guide mentioned like whenever there's even a rumor of a hurricane that's going to shut down shipping to the islands, who wants to guess the first three things that go first? Number one being toilet paper, followed very closely by beer and rice.
I mean, if you're going to go out,
Yeah, better stock up.
I mean, if you're going to have the beer shits, you're going to need the toilet paper.
And you're going to need the rice too.
You ever wonder how good of a football team the Wolverines actually were?
Bro, I bet they were like 0-3 before the
We're going to
invasion.
go up against the Miners next week.
Son me!
Avenge me! The re-education camp was definitely an interesting little aspect of this. Like, it's definitely something that would happen, I think. I'm
The
sure it's probably happening to some degree in like Ukraine right now too.
part that bothers me the most about that scene is just how easily they just walk into an occupied town. Nobody asks for their papers. That chick at the desk is like, everyone's looking for you. Are they? Like these guys are like wanted by the military and they're just like
Walking around
openly
town.
walking around. And when they get to the internment camp, they just walk up to the fence and have conversations with these guys. What bothers me about that is the same issue with the boy in the striped pajamas. There's no way in fucking hell they would have been allowed that close to the fence. They would have gotten shot.
Yeah. At the very least, they would have been like, who are these homeboys?
Yeah, hey, who are you? Papers, please. Wait a minute, we've been looking for you. Bang.
This episode brought to you by
Bang Energy.
that or Papers, Please. I don't know.
Papers, please. Have you played that game?
I have. I fucking suck at it.
Glory to our Stotska. Cause no trouble.
Dude, the fucking heating bill always killed me in that fucking game.
Apparently you're supposed to do what actual Soviet citizens did and like alternate each bill each day. Like one day gets the heating bill, one day gets the food bill. All my family still died.
But Soviet Russia marched on.
Arstotzka. And there's that guy that keeps showing up with that very obviously fake passport.
Right. Speaking of like communist efficiency, so, and Ukraine, I just had a weird brain tangent going on in my head. So, you know how earlier I was like, it's ridiculous to me that the idea that Russia would have the infrastructure to transport their military to the continental United States. And I don't know if you got this feeling, but the Russian paratroopers at the beginning of this film gave me like Star Wars stormtrooper vibes, whereas like they couldn't hit shit.
Yeah. Plot armor is good for evasiveness.
That or like our main characters just drive by a group of soldiers and they kind of just like look at them as they're like herding other people together. Very, very ineffective unless they're shooting a school teacher or, you know, what have you. I remember early on in like the first few weeks or months of the Russian-Ukraine conflict, there was a news story that came out back when like that was all that was in the news like every single day, and back when like everybody had the Ukrainian flags, you know, flying in their front yards, which was also kind of an interesting time, I think. But there was a news story where the Russians like legit were mounting an airborne operation. And I want to say it was like it's either like a battalion size or maybe a regiment worth of paratroopers. And the pilots flying the cargo planes got fucking lost and dumped this entire battalion or regiment of Russian paratroopers into the fucking, was it the Black Sea that's next to Ukraine?
I think so, yeah.
Anyways, they did this massive airborne paratrooper drop into a fucking like Lake Superior sized body of water, and they all fucking drowned. And I was like, huh. Like, no wonder a bunch of like in real life, Russian paratroopers are really shitty at their jobs. And like in this movie, we're seeing a bunch of untrained kids fucking murking them day after day. And at first, I'm like, oh, that's unrealistic. But then I hear this story come out of Ukraine. I'm like, actually, that's not that. You know what? I believe it now.
Yeah, man. Totally believable. The progression, too, from scared teenagers hiding from the war with 30-06 hunting rifles to full-blown cold-blooded killers.
I think this film had a missed golden opportunity for some snappy comeback when our kids initially go hiding in the mountains, and the one kid's like, well, as student body president of Calumet High, I move that we give ourselves up. And I'm like, where's the person in this? Like, obviously, they're like, shut up, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
But,
nerd.
but I was like, where's the guy to say, like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but we don't have a fucking high school anymore. Your title means jack shit. Also, when we were in high school, your only job was to play in the prom, so shut the fuck up.
But no, let's listen to the jock. He's stronger. That means his words are more true.
He's a leader. He's the quarterback.
Yeah. And his brother's Charlie Sheen.
Mm-hmm. Who would go on to be a Navy SEAL.
Man,
I don't know if you knew that, but Charlie Sheen was in a movie called Navy SEALs.
didn't watch it.
I think it's on our list.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Coming up next week.
Bill Paxton was in that too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Cool. Man. Yeah, and there's also that subplot involving the colonel and that bloodthirsty kid. Danny, I think his name was. Where he's just like marking tallies for his kills on the butt of his rifle. And he's like, don't let that hate burn you up, kid.
Keeps me warm.
Keeps me warm. Yeah, he who destroys monster. Going full just blood knight.
Fucking cringy as shit. Also, if I was 17 in an armed resistance against the Russians, I would 100% be marking my kills on my rifle.
Bad idea.
Why? I'd just be like, if I got captured, I'd just be like, oh, I was counting the days.
I heard a story of a German sniper that did that in the war. Would tally marks on his rifle. When the Russians found him, they shoved the rifle up his ass.
Huh. I wonder how far it went.
I think they even fired it off, too.
Gross. Anyways.
These are the days until my tour ends. Resistance fighter in tours.
Avenge me.
Yeah, and the old man's word strikes true because they eventually die anyway. The Eckert brothers basically commit suicide by going on that bonsai charge in the town.
It was a great, heroic last stand, if you will.
Yeah, it's the way I'd want to go.
I actually felt some emotions when they were on the park bench. I'll be here with you. Don't worry.
Yeah, just slowly bleeding out with your brother's corpse. We got some humanization from that Cuban general, too, that's like, I long for your long black hair, mi amor.
I found the Cuban character to be an interesting device, and I liked him, because he's supposed to be our voice of reason. I was once a partisan.
I've seen this before.
We have to win the hearts and minds, as they said. Yeah, they lost that war. I really appreciated the scene where he's writing his letter home, and he's like, it's been so long since I've been a young child in the sun, and then, the Russian officers in the background just looking at a Playboy.
Yeah, they're just chilling.
Also, how many times are they going to disregard their own instructions? Because I remember, probably 3 or 4 times in this movie, on different occasions, the Russian officer's like, restrict the men to only the secured areas in town. And then, the next scene is just Russians getting blown the fuck up. And it's like, I thought you told your guys not to go anywhere.
I mean, these are Russians. These aren't top-tier soldiers.
Fair.
And Cubans, I guess. I like the Mexican kid they had in the Resistance. They dressed him up as a soldier. And in Spanish, he's like, oh, this way, this way. And then he hops behind the barricade, Wolverines! And then just fucking light him up. Which, would there be not a language barrier, but dialect issues.
I don't know. I'm sure at the point that the Cuban military is marching up into Colorado, they've probably conscripted people from other Spanish-speaking countries. So
They probably just figured he was a funny sounding kid, and then they got killed.
yeah, probably.
I do like that this shows that actions have consequences. Where they have victories against the occupying force, but then it shows them in like fucking mowing down townsfolk in retaliation.
Yeah, why don't the townsfolk get a fucking memorial rock?
Well, because they weren't part of the resistance, they were just
Yeah,
casualties.
but they were victims of the resistance.
I don't know. Maybe there's a bigger, fancier memorial that everyone goes to in lieu of Partisan Rock. Also, why does nobody go to Partisan Rock? Is there any reason why?
Because it's probably way the fuck up in the mountains.
I mean, it's the ending dialogue seems to imply that the war went on for years and they were just a small part of it. So maybe they were kind of forgotten.
I'm sure in the grand scheme of World War III, a singular partisan group of 6 kids probably doesn't rate a history book.
Yeah. Who's to... Well, that one kid was getting famous, Jed.
I guess.
Heard about you in California.
They're going to bring Green Berets to you. Are they?
They are. They're going to be a bit late.
Ugh.
Also, yeah, just being told to be under the guise of kids, or not under the direction of kids when they're trained soldiers. But yeah, I mentioned this earlier, but the plot armor was very strong in this, for the most part.
What was your favorite bit?
Need to think about this. I like when they finally get somewhat organized and their heads out of their asses and they actually start pulling off successful missions. Or that terrorist girl that kept blowing up like tanks, or the Soviet-American Relationship Center.
Ah, yes.
Thank God she didn't kill any civilians, huh?
Excuse me, miss. You talk to me? Maybe later. Okay, I wait.
Boom.
Yeah, it's a good thing there was 0 civilian casualties associated with that.
If there were probably sympathizers, let's just say that.
Like the fucking mayor.
Fuck that guy. What
I'm
happened to the
curious,
mayor?
like, because there's always going to be sympathizers. I'm curious, like, how many people would have actually been sympathizers in this situation.
I think about 25% of, don't quote me on this, but a good chunk of French people sided with the Germans when they invaded. I remember reading somewhere, like, our country likes to prop up the 25% that resisted, ignore the 25% that helped the Nazis, and it definitely doesn't talk about the 50% that did nothing.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you there'd be probably more loyalists than you think.
Just like the one kid with the tracking beacon in his tummy.
Yeah, honestly, they probably could have set up an ambush using that, like, put him in like a cabin and rig it to explode when they go finding him again.
Yeah.
This is against the Geneva Convention. This is against the Geneva Convention.
I don't think the Geneva...
Never heard of her.
I don't think the Geneva Conventions really apply in World War III.
Nope. Besides, what are they going to do? Tell my dad my dad's dead?
They'd want me to stay alive.
Did it show what happened to the mayor?
I don't remember, honestly.
Because that cool as fuck old guy they kept going to, I'm pretty sure he was lined up, wasn't he?
Probably.
Because I think he was in the lineup when that first roundup where they started singing "America the Beautiful," then got gunned down.
It's interesting. I like that scene, but I found "America the Beautiful" to be an interesting song choice. Maybe it's just because that's what they could get the rights to, but
they just start singing "Holla Back Girl." This shit is bananas.
BANAN. What song would you sing in defiance?
Hit me with your best shot. Fire away.
I probably do Put It on the Ritz.
If you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion's bang? Stop singing.
Put It on the Ritz.
And that becomes a symbol of the resistance.
Man, they'd be so confused. But also, the Russians in this have like a complete lack of like actual understanding of American culture. Like, one of my favorite lines in this is when the Russian is interviewing the mayor, and he's like, your son is part of student government, I see. Yeah, he's more of a politician. He's not like an actual like leader or partisan. I see he was also a part of the paramilitary organization Eagle Scouts. Very prestigious. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Aren't you an Eagle Scout?
I am, but that would not
Dang.
make being an Eagle Scout
Military guy.
gives you zero fucking skills to be a partisan.
Man, I didn't think you were a badass. We got a military guy with us, his special forces.
It's one step below JROTC. You ever seen those memes?
No.
Oh, you know what JROTC is, right?
Yeah, Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps.
Yeah, so the high school equivalent of ROTC.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of memes where it's like kids who are in that program take it way too seriously, and it's like, hey, you need to respect my authority. I'm a future service member.
Yeah, service these nuts.
Ha. Ha.
Thank you. I'm quite hilarious. Maybe it's just because I watch too many movies, but the gun noises in this, just the stock.
You know what killed me was I think the producers of this film thought RPGs were the coolest shit ever. And the RPGs in this movie looks like the special effects from Team America.
Yeah.
Like rockets
Especially
on
in
a
the beginning
wire.
when they fire it down towards the camera.
That or like when one of the kids fires the rocket into one of the helicopters and somehow the helicopter doesn't fucking explode despite having a direct hit.
Yeah, I didn't get that. It just starts pouring smoke. Kills a couple guys inside, but I was expecting, more.
You can see they put a lot of money into the helicopter scene.
But yeah, this when the Russians actually get serious.
I put the casualties at 12
They hide their dead.
and put grenades under them.
Yeah, actual war crime, but whatever.
Whatever. Didn't like every army do that up until like post Vietnam?
I wouldn't say Vietnam. Like there was definitely problems with it with the Japanese in World War II.
Yeah, but the Japanese didn't really follow the Geneva Codes either.
Yeah, didn't even do this Geneva suggestions. They just outright ignored it.
What is Geneva?
Never heard of her.
Geneva sat this conflict out.
What about the Geneva Conventions? We're in Colorado. Kills him. We're not in Geneva, idiot. Man, if I was a screenwriter.
Oh. What are you drinking tonight?
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew.
Nah.
How could you betray me like this, Puff Puff?
You will be begging me for gerbster meat.
I am having some, because we have Cold War / World War III / Russians, I'm doing vodka and Sprite. It took you a second there to... Not a super crazy combo.
Also, the really fucking heavy-handed scene where it's the bumper sticker. You can have my gun when you pry it from my cold dead hand. Camera pans down to his body, and the guy like pries his pistol from his cold dead hand.
I thought that was beautiful filmmaking right there.
You can tell just the screenwriter is really patting himself on the back for that one. Just good job.
Do you think, like, I know that there's supposed to be like kids who are all like hopped up on the idea of like, yeah, we're partisans, we're the Wolverines. Like, do you think it was just like an excuse for the set guys to spray paint fucking shit everywhere?
Wolverines!
You know what we should do? The next time you come out to Colorado, we should go to Calumet.
And take over the town.
I don't know. We can do a little Armchair Commanders field trip, do a little YouTube video.
Yeah. Armchair travels.
What if we just loaded like a lazy boy into the back of a truck for the series?
There you go.
Oh well. I don't know how we're going to do that for Camp Toccoa, but
We'll figure something out. We'll get Mitch to bring one.
you know, I had this idea, which is Camp Toccoa does a run up Currahee every year.
Yeah.
For June 6th. I think what we should do is when we go there, we should go during the weekend that they have that memorial run for D-Day, and we should draw straws to see who runs it, while the other two just gets to drink.
Well, I ain't fucking running. You're more fit than I am.
And barely. Oh no, we can discuss it.
Also, another thing I was going to mention, Patrick Swayze in his early 30s as a high school student. Like, yeah, I'm just convinced every high schooler just kind of looked like that in the 80s, a person in their 30s.
Probably.
Meanwhile, our generation's aging backwards, it seems.
I was expecting him to break out dancing the entire film.
Teaches the Russians how to dance and saves us.
All the while, his dad's still disappointed in him.
No one puts baby in the corner. I do. I'm your father. What are you like? What is he, like 40? You shouldn't be around him. Yeah, I think those Russians just needed to be taught how to dance.
Probably.
Also, I was mistaken.
Wolverines are your friends.
Also, I was mistaken. It's 400 million Chinese people dead with the nukes. That's about 7 times the casualties of World War II alone. And that's just China.
China.
Yeah, and this inspired the game Homefront and Command and Conquer. It's a very influential movie.
Homefront was the one where North Korea takes over, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to do Red Dawn, the remake, because that's the North Koreans.
This one, like, this plot seems a bit more plausible than that. Do they at least try to justify it in the new one, or?
No, it was just literally China was mad, so they changed the flags on everything.
Okay.
I know.
Okay. Whatever.
Makes a ton of sense, I know.
Whatever.
I agree with you. This one, like I said earlier, the part of it that I found plausible was like the Cuban military taking over Central America and then launching attack. But even that's still kind of iffy.
But hey, America won eventually. After a couple of vaporized cities and a couple of dead teenagers.
I was talking to Miranda when I was watching this film, and I was like, in the event of like an apocalypse or World War III, I would want to be alive for approximately 2 days because I would like to play real life Fortnite and experience the chaos for like a day or two, and then I would like to die to not deal with it anymore.
It kind of reminds me of Cartman's plan in Grey Dawn. Okay, Stan, Kenny, you start a distraction on the other side of town. We go in, we strap a bomb to Kyle, we say our tearful goodbyes, and we send him in alone to take out the country kitchen buffet. Or we could just lock the door. They get up so early, get everything done so fast.
I can't wait to do Grey Dawn as a bonus reel.
Mm-hmm. Really? The AARP is actual militarized.
Grandma's got a bazooka.
Mm-hmm. Also, are there any major military bases around the Calumet area?
Around Calumet? No, but I mean, like I said, an hour north of Calumet is Colorado Springs, and that's where Fort Carson is, which is home of the 4th Infantry Division. It's also where the Air Force Academy is, and it's where NORAD is.
So yeah, they should have been a bit prepared, but
I find the other aspect of it that I found interesting was like, I think a lot of people tend to forget that the 80s was very much still the Cold War.
yeah.
And like the threat was, I hate saying that the threat was more because the threat still exists of nuclear war, but like the idea of nuclear war between the US and Russia was still much more likely in the 80s than it is today. But the 80s is like this weird place and time where you still have all the tension and threats of the Cold War, but like you have people, it's kind of like what happened with COVID, where it's like the first 6 months, everybody was wearing fucking masks and, you know, was afraid to even look at another person because we didn't know shit about the virus. And, you know, consequently, people swung to the exact opposite of it, where they're like, oh, this is fake and bullshit and all that. I'm like, where the truth is, it's genuinely in the middle, which is, yes, it was a dangerous virus that killed a lot of people. What's that?
The virus.
Virus. It was a dangerous virus because we didn't have immunity to it yet, or we had not built up a herd immunity to it. We didn't have a treatment for it in the early days. And like, I think a lot of people forget about that when you get like a year, 2 years removed from it, where it's like, well, people aren't really dying anymore. It's like, yeah, no shit, because most people got it now and have built up antibodies and shit. But I digress. The 80s is an interesting time frame to explore the Cold War because very much in the way of the pandemic, by the time the 80s roll around, you have a lot of people who have lived a good chunk of their lives being told that any day now the Russians are going to nuke us and it never happens. Like, if you think about Cold War in the 50s, where like people are building fucking bomb shelters in their backyards, versus the 80s, where it's
Any day now.
like, oh, those kooky Russians, you know?
Yeah, and hey, all they need to do is wait a couple more years for it to all collapse in 91.
I hope that like my little tangent of equating like pandemic to Cold War made sense. At least it did in my brain.
People forget.
People forget, or people get tired of the precautions.
Yeah, they don't take it seriously, and then when you don't take anything seriously, Russia invades.
Yep, with the Cubans.
Yeah, imagine getting just drunk as shit one night in Calumet and then waking up in Russia.
Man,
The fuck happened?
where'd this concentration camp come from?
It'd be funny if they just built it around that guy.
Just
Didn't
like
even physically move him, just
4-foot
built
cage.
it around him.
Ugh.
And then they get how convenient is it for the Russians that everybody gets their guns from the same place, that the sporting goods store that they just pull the records on and then either kill them or round them up?
The idea that they would do that is just fucking laughable to me, because like record keeping for firearm sales, like, yeah, you were supposed to do it, but like the government didn't really crack down on keeping track of firearm sales until like post Reagan assassination attempt. So, and if I'm not mistaken, this came out before that.
Yeah. Hey, we could have gotten John Hinckley Jr. to tell us what life was like in the 80s.
You know what? This would have been about the only film I think would have been.
He probably saw it in theaters. But no, we're not supposed to have a
No, we're
potential
not going to have
presidential
him.
stuff. Oh, come on. Him and Reagan are cool now.
No, they're not. You know
Well,
why?
well, one of them's
Reagan's
dead.
dead.
Yeah, see, the beef is quelled. I'm pretty sure
Reagan.
I'm pretty sure he put the whole Jodie Foster thing behind him and moved on, hopefully at least. You know, he's living his best life, doing a musician thing. We could have him write a song.
About
Ooh.
Great On.
I don't know. But we could have him on to write us a new intro song.
Hey, I like our intro.
It's all right.
It's very toe-tappy.
It's no John Hinckley Jr., though. But man, yeah, the tactics and just the fact that they didn't die until the Russians got serious.
We're going to buckle down now.
Like, the closest real-life analog is obviously the Viet Cong. They had ridiculously high casualty rates.
Yeah, but a willing populace.
And, you know, killing civilians and fuels the revolution. They mentioned that.
Viva la revolution.
They almost kill that pilot guy in their little game of football. Swayze just fucking takes him out.
Vaya con Dios.
Also, that scene where they're thinking about jumping that supply truck, and then it was really fake the way the fruit and cereal box fell off of it. Like, I thought they were setting up for a trap, honestly. You know, like, I was expecting that chick they send out to go check it to go boom.
Instead, she's just holding up the oranges.
And
like, look, guys!
They just eat fresh fruit for what's probably the first time in months. She squeezes the orange juice on him to be a shithead and a wasteful prick. And
well,
then
she got what came to her.
And then helicopters pop up.
And killed her.
And that guy just finally loses it. And fires at them, then dies.
Wolverines!
Yeah, the hatred consumed him. Much was prophesized.
I think it's about time we give this thing a rating.
I agree. So, What should the thing be? Do you have any in mind?
I think it should be. Fuck, I actually thought about this yesterday. It was quite clever. Fuck it. You know what? Let's do 1 to 5 re-education camps.
Damn.
I mean, we can do that or background playboys.
I'm gonna give this 4 internment camps out of 5 with a lost box of fruit.
Okay.
So like 4.2 maybe. And a Playboy that was rolled up in the.
And the pages are sticky.
Ew. From the fruit juice, right?
Yeah. That's what it's from.
Or cum.
That would be the joke, Jack.
See, it's funny because Playboy's a pornographic magazine eliciting sexual responses from the readers. It's like I have just an AI explain every one of our jokes.
Yeah. What is your reason for the 4.25-ish rating?
This is a stupid movie and it was obvious propaganda, but god damn it, it was fun. I'm still crazy for Swayze.
Crazy for Swayze.
Crazy for Swayze.
I would give this. It's a very typical 1980s action film. And I think if it wasn't for the cultural impact that it's had, I think if we were just holding this to a standard of a 1980s film, this is like, I think it's like a solid 3 internment camp rating. But because it has had such a significant cultural impact in the fact that it's affected other media, I mean, it's something that gets referenced a lot. I mean, shit, we had, how many times has the Wolverines joke come up in this fucking podcast? Wolverines! So
It's a meme.
I think because of that impact, I will give it 4 internment camps, but the 4th camp, the fence is broken. So like a
And the
3.8.
The guards are drunk, so they let teenagers talk to their dads through the fence.
Yeah. So like a 3.8.
Man, all right. Let's see. On IMDb, this has 6.3 out of 10. Now, where the fuck's the Rotten Tommy Toes? All right, so on Rotten Tomatoes, the tomometer is 48%, but the audience meter is 65%. Once again, going with the audience on this one.
I guess I was expecting Rotten Tomatoes to be higher for some reason, just
Yeah,
because
me too.
they've been surprising us quite a bit in the past. But I don't necessarily disagree with the scores that Rotten Tomatoes has.
Me neither.
But that has been Red Dawn. Keep your eyes out for our bonus reel of Grey Dawn.
Ooh, one more thing. Apparently, this was the first movie rated PG-13 under the new ratings board system.
Interesting.
Well, fun fact for you.
It is fun. Do you have anything else for our fine listeners?
Wolverines!
If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. The stars do matter. If you want additional content from us, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all those good places. Until next time, I have been John.
And I'm Jack.
And we'll catch you all later.
I actually got something in it, man. Yeah,
That's quite the outro.
I was rubbing my eyes when I said that.
Do you want to do?
Bye.
There you go.